Tips from alumni. Please, can you mute yourself if you are not speaking to us? Crafting a compelling application, tips for alumni. This morning we have with us two of our alumni who will be taking on the topic. I will ask that they introduce themselves. First speaker is Ifeoma Malo. She is an energy access expert and climate action champion. She has over 23 years experience building and directing organizational operations and strategy, supporting startup. Ifeoma, you can add to it, the introduction, if there's anything I've missed out. Please join me as we welcome Ifeoma Malo as she takes on the first session of the program this morning. With a round of applause, please.
Thank you, Josephine. Thank you. And hello, everybody. Good morning. Really chuffed to have been asked to come and speak about my alumni, my experience actually as an alumni of a US program. I'm a proud Eisenhower Fellow. The Eisenhower Fellowship is a mid-career fellowship for people around the world. It has different aspects of the fellowship. There's the African Fellowship, there's a Global Fellowship, and then there's also the American Fellowships. So is there somebody who's unmuted and speaking?
I've muted the person. Thank you. Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. So I was a global fellow in 2015, with the Eisenhower Fellowship. So I was privileged to be in the cohort where there were 24 other fellows from all over the world. There were two of us that were Nigerians on my cohort. And it was really a lifetime changing experience. So the question is, how did I get in? I had one friend who had been an Eisenhower Fellow, and when the application came out, she had sent it to me and said, well, I think this might be a good fit for you. I was also in a transitionary period in my career at the time, stepping away from government and trying to figure out what's next. Can we go to the next slide? Yeah, and one of the things that I realized when I opened up the application was that this was a serious one. It was not like any other application I had actually had to fill. It required me to do a lot of deep thinking. The questions there were quite a number of questions, but that the nature of the questions expected you to do some deep thinking about what you were bringing to the fellowship, what you hoped to take away from the fellowship, and why you were the right person to be selected as a fellow. And, for some fellowships, as I've realized, there is little interaction with the applicant. And so for some of them, the first and only impression they might have about you is the application that you put forward, right? And whether or not you get to have other stages of application, this is your first introduction to the organization that is offering you this opportunity. And so it's, for me, it's like what I call a dating interview, but on paper, right? You're reading about somebody and you're deciding whether you want to go along or go ahead with the person whether you want to go ahead with the person to continue this relationship. So that's how you should look at it. So it's very important that you look at your application as a first impression document. And that's where you should pour out all of your best self into. Because during subsequent interviews, it is the things that you write in that application that people are going to ask you for, the panel is going to ask you for. And this increasingly improves your chances. So I'll give you an example. When I was writing my own application for the Eisenhower Fellowship, it was in the middle of a lot of events that were happening in Nigeria, political, social, insecurity had become a big issue. And so I centered my work around providing energy access to last mile community, deep rural community, hard to reach communities as a way of improving security, the insecurity in the country, and also improving on educational outcomes, especially for girls. And I told the story of Chibok and how that's related, because that was happening at the time, and how that's related to why I really wanted to do this fellowship. And so it was a hook. It was a way to get whoever was reading my application very interested in what I had to say. I wrote that application, I think, about 15 times. So, it's very important that when you write your application, you review, you revise, you review, you revise. Because I can tell you that at every revision, you're going to find things that you missed, or things that you could have said better, or things that you need to cut down on because maybe they are not as relevant as when you first put them in during the first draft. Next slide, please. So what did I do in my Eisenhower Fellowship application? I created a clear narrative arc about what I wanted to do. Remember, I said it's a mid-career fellowship. I said that the fellowship was going to help me with my transition to being a full-time energy access entrepreneur and addressing issues of climate change in Nigeria. That was my overarching narrative around that fellowship. And I centered it around the fact that Nigeria had a perennial electricity problem, both in our urban areas and in our rural areas, so that I was looking at renewable energy as a way to get electricity, both in the peri-urban areas, so that people are not using generators as much, but also to rural areas where they don't even have electricity at all. And that by people having electricity, it improves their economic indices, it provides better security, and that it's going to make people become, at least add more income into their families and send their kids to school and everything, because they will now have, all these cottage industries would arise. So that was my clear narrative about why I was focusing on using renewable energy to get electricity to people, to improve productivity, because, our electricity isn't as good in Nigeria. So there was an overarching narrative, but I tied it to a lot of economic and social indicators, right? And I aligned it with the program values, the Eisenhower program values, which is about bringing leaders who are solving difficult problems, intractable problems in their countries, in their societies. They're taking bold risks to say, okay, this is what's not working in my society, rather than be a bystander and just look, here is how my own project or my work is going to address that. And then you will show evidence of impact, that this is what you have been doing, and this is how the results you've been getting, and that through the fellowship, you're able to reach more communities, reach more people, and get better impact. And as you're doing this, please tell true stories, tell authentic and true stories. One of the things that you'll find with the Eisenhower Fellowship, for instance, is that there are 5 stages. There's the stage of the application, the pre-application to see whether you qualify, then the application. Then you're going to meet Eisenhower Fellows. They actually come down to Nigeria and all of the other countries where potential candidates are. And you will go through a panel interview. And after that panel interview, I think it's now, since COVID, it's now done by Zoom. After that panel interview, there's one or two more steps, but you will meet people in Philadelphia where the headquarters is. They would call you and you would have a 1-hour interview with them. So these are the steps. And if you're not telling true stories, it'll show up during the interviews. Next slide. So how do you craft a personal statement that is going to stand out? Like I say, start with a hook. Use a personal anecdote, a question, a bold statement that draws the reader in. In my case, the Chibok issue, which actually personally affected me in many ways, was my hook. I started with that story and then talked about how, because I was in government at the time, so some of the interventions that governments then tried to do, I, in my position at the time, was a part of those conversations. But how that deeply affected me and how I realized that we have a bigger problem, right? Electricity is going to be one part of the solution, but that's the part of the solution that I have chosen. So I started from a big picture and then drew it down to what my own focus in my own fellowship was going to be. I was specific about why this matters to me, right? Not just as somebody who's working in the power or electricity sector, but also someone who's a mom and who has young children that are Nigerians and are growing up here. And so, like, again, these were my authentic voices. But also what I had learned being in the Ministry of Power for about 3 years at that point, and what I saw as a way to sort of fast track our electricity issues in Nigeria. And I'm using electricity because this is what I know. So, but yours can be agriculture, healthcare, social development, whatever. It could be anything, right? And then you show growth. I was reflecting on the things that I had tried to do and that I had failed, and how I've grown through them. What were my maturity points and what were my aha moments, right? What made me realize that renewable energy and climate change were the things I needed to focus on and that I needed to drill down on to solve my own pocket of what was Nigeria's problem. And I was connecting past, present, and future events, the things that had happened in my past, in my career, to now what I wanted to do and how I wanted to grow. And this is how you build a personal statement. There's a reason why it's called personal statement, because they have to see you in that statement. It's not for you to write an academic paper. It's not for you to write an abstract paper. It's not about you showing how intelligent you are in your sector or in your industry or in your work. It is they want to see you in that statement. And if you're not reflecting who you are in that statement, you're probably not going to get past that pre-application or application stage. Next slide. And some of the common mistakes I've seen, because since I became, I'm a fellow for about 3 or 4 fellowships: the Desmond Tutu Fellow, the Eisenhower Fellowship, the Acumen Fellowship, and the Global Diplomacy Lab Fellowship, the one run by GIZ, the Germans. And I'm now a nominator and a selector for those. So I sit on panels to select fellows. Some of the common pitfalls that I see, and this cuts across, is when people are very generic and they talk about changing the world. They want to change the world. Remember, I said your personal statements is about you. You have to drill down they have to get a sense of who you are, what you're doing, where you are going, what your values are. So if you're talking about abstract things like I want to change the world, everybody does. But what part of the world are you changing? What is that unit of impact or unit of change that you want to make? Because there's no way you are going to change the world, just like that. It starts from baby steps. So that's what they want to see, that sort of growth pattern that you have to be able to be this change maker. You have to, it's okay to list your achievements, but you have to talk about what this means for you, what those achievements mean. It's not just for you collecting certificates and all of those things. What is this going to do for you, right? And you have to tailor, like for the Eisenhower Fellowship, because I was doing energy access, renewable energy technology, climate technology. When they asked all the kind of companies and people I wanted to meet when I was in the US, I was very, very focused. It was either people who are in the energy sector, renewable energy sector, or who run accelerators and incubators that I met. Any other person that I was going to meet that was not this, it was just because maybe I admired the person. But I was very focused on who I needed to see and what I needed to get out of this fellowship. Next slide, please. I'm almost at the end. Now, here are my final tips for you. I gave 2 people to read my statements. One of those people told me to write it again and again. She made so many changes and suggestions 7 times. And those suggestions were good, you know, because remember, it's your own personal statements. If you find that the suggestions that are being made are removing away from your authentic self, you have every right to reject it. But it's always good to have people that look over your statements. Sometimes they will tell you whether it's too much information or whether they've read it and they cannot get anything out of it. So it's always good to have another pair of eyes and look at what you're writing. I also record myself a lot. You know, I practice a lot because when I was going to face the panel interview, I had to practice what I was going to say, how I wanted to present myself. I didn't want to come across as too knowing or too braggadocious or too, you know, like I wanted to be in a place of reflection and learning and the conversation with the panel. And so it took practice. I didn't make any assumption that this was how I was going to show up. I deliberately had to train myself to show up like that. And it really helped because it was a conversation during my panel interview. We were laughing and everything because I had practiced how I wanted to show up. And then it's very important to use the STAR method. Situation, task, action, results to describe your experiences. What was that situation that really transformed you or that really changed you? What was that one thing? What was the task? What was the work you had to do there for that transformation to occur? What were the action steps you took? And then how is it changing? What is the results that you're seeing? So when you're telling personal stories, this happened to me in my life. It's not just so that you tell hardship stories and sub stories. It's how has that transformation occurred using the STAR method? Think through it. Think about what you're saying in your narrative to make sure you're hitting the right spot. Nobody wants to hear about all the what we call, poverty porn or, you know, like I've really suffered and we know, but how has that shaped you into the human being that you are? Last slide, please. Let me just tell you, your story is enough. You don't need to go and look for additions. Like I said, don't tell lies. There are people who have come to the panel interviews. By the time we start to poke a little, we know that it's a bag of lies. You know, just have clarity and confidence in your story and know that it's true. If you don't get selected, it's not the end. Some people applied 3 times, 4 times before they got into some of these fellowships. So it's not the end of the road for you. It's, you know, you can just redirect when you're reapplying again. Think about what extra it is that you're bringing for that reapplication. And then aim to connect with people. Let your voice and your values shine through. So some of the people that interviewed me at my panel have become some of my biggest champions and promoters professionally since then. This was about 10, 11 years ago. So in conclusion, last slide. In conclusion, it is very important that, you know, you put your head down and actually do the work of a proper application and trust the process. Trust the process. Trust the process. I'll end it there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ifeoma. Can we give her a round of applause? Thank you very much. So I'd like to invite
I wrote them the video in the guys to give me access.
I would like to invite our second facilitator, Adekunmilola Adio-Moses. I'll take his brief bio. Mr. Adekunmilola Adio-Moses is the current Director General, Lagos State Public Service Staff Development Center, PSSDC, Magodo. He has a BSc and MSc degrees in economics from the University of Ibadan and the University of Lagos, respectively. He is also an alumnus of the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration, GIMPA, in Ghana, and Harvard University Kennedy School of Government, USA. In addition to his public service career, Mr. Adio-Moses is a member of the U.S. Government Exchange Alumni Association, having attended the International Visitor Leadership Program, IVLP, in 2004, and a Volunteer Visitor VOLVIS program in 2012. Kumi has been involved in high-level committees, including his role in Governor Sanwo-Olu's Transition Committee 2018, and helped in establishing the Creativity and Innovation Department of the Office of Transformation, Creativity and Innovation, OTCI, promoting a growth mindset and innovation in Lagos State Public Service. And there's a good news added to his bio. This Friday, come Friday, 18th of July 2025, he will be the president, Rotary Club of Omole Golden. Kumi is happily married with beautiful children. With a round of applause, let's welcome Kumi Adio-Moses.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
It's a privilege to be opportune to speak with this very distinguished set of people across the various locations that are joining us today. I want to first thank Ifeoma for the lovely work she did with the first presentation. She hit the nail on the head so well. I even enjoyed that presentation myself. So well, she had slides to present. So let's make it a bit less formal this time, and let's just have almost like an interactive session would be fine. So I'm just going to be giving you, let's just gist about my experience, okay? So I joined the Lagos State Public Service in 1999, immediately after I finished from University of Ibadan, my first degree, economics. And, I loved the aspect of economics that dealt with human beings. You have the monetary and then your fiscal and, development economics and all of that. I didn't really like monetary economics. I just felt that people that dealt with monetary economics were too cold-hearted. Like we're just dealing with with figures and instruments for the financial sector. I wanted to impact people directly. I wanted to deal with the part of economics that engaged people and helped people to make rational decisions that benefit them and benefit society. And that was the reason why I joined the public sector instead of going to a bank or, what so many of my colleagues were doing then. And you can imagine, I've been there from 1999 till date. So that tells you that my passion for dealing with people on a larger scale has been there all along. Now, my first opportunity to go for this program under the US government sponsored fellowship was the IVLP, the International Visitor Leadership Program. And that was in 2004. So that was 5 years after I joined the government. And I need to tell you a bit about what I had done within that 5 years. Now, the very first year I joined the public service, I was posted to work in the Accountant General's office. And I was privileged to work with no less a person than Mr. Adekunmilola Adio-Moses, who was Accountant General at that time. And of course, for a young person leaving university, getting to work with such a brilliant mind, he still is such a brilliant mentor. The opportunity to get to work closely with someone like him was a dream come true. I learned a lot very, very quickly, and he challenged he challenged me, with tasks from day one. And that helped me to begin to use my brain much faster than I had expected. So I was planning that when I get into the public service, I will be able to do my master's and then do maybe some professional exams and all of that, because I heard public service, you usually have a lot of time on your hands. But working with someone like him, you didn't have that much time on your hands, you know. So it was that experience for the first year. And then immediately after the first year, I was invited to an interview. A new ministry was established, Ministry of Economic Planning and Budget. And Mr. Yemi Cardoso was going to be commissioner. And I was invited to this interview. They wanted to get public servants who are still fresh in the system, who are still fresh and who hadn't imbibed the negative aspects of public service, if you know what I mean. And I did the interview and I was chosen to come and work with him. So by the second year, I was working directly with Mr. Yemi Cardoso, who at that time was already MD of several banks. I think it was Citizens Bank, and then went on to be MDs of Citibank and so on and so forth. So, and I was with him for six years straight, from 2000 to 2006. So the first 7 years of my public service career was like I was living a dream, working with people who most of my colleagues wouldn't get to work with until they get to management level, and that shaped my thinking, that shaped my approach to public service, that shaped my approach to life generally. So during my time with Mr. Yemi Cardoso, I got to meet many people. I mean, he was doing presentations at executive council meetings. Of course, the current president of the country right now, Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu, was the governor of Lagos State then. And I would be the person with the laptop handling his presentations during executive council meetings. So I'll be sitting right there in the middle, on the system, changing the slides and all of that, and listening to their conversations. And I tell you, those were some moments, those were times that I would never, ever forget. When you listen to eggheads discuss contemporary issues of a global scale and bringing it to bear in their local community, these executive council members were talking about real life information that was being shared across the world. These were people who had direct contacts with presidents all over the world, with central banks all over the world, with World Bank, with all those international organizations. And they were giving you they were sharing information that was shared that morning, or that they heard the night before on the phone with these people. It was so surreal, that experience, and it just goes to, when people talk about Lagos State, how much Lagos State is achieving, it's the amount of work all those people put in place at the beginning in 1999. The blueprint that was put in place, which we still follow till today. It was a lot of detailed work. Anyway, don't let me digress into that. So all that experience came to bear when I was with Mr. Yemi Cardoso, and I got to meet Benny Uche. Benny Uche was a very key official of the US Public Affairs section at that time. She's long retired now, but she was someone who was very passionate about her job and who had very, very strong network amongst the public sector officials. She knew Mr. Yemi Cardoso very well. She knew the governor, Ashwaju Blametim. She knew everybody, more or less. And so I got to meet her at some point during my work. And I guess my commissioner, Mr. Yemi Cardoso, had put in a good word, because subsequently I was invited to put in for that IVLP program. And I remember Mr. Yemi Cardoso telling me, look, I know that you can do this. I know that this will be good for your career. And I know that you have what it takes, So unlike, so I had to actually do the submission by myself, do the write of the proposal, write my personal statement and all of that, And like Ifeoma said, it is very, very important, the first impression, and also about being authentic in what you write. She nailed it on the head, very, very important. So your personal statement really needs to talk about what you want to achieve, what inspires you, And for me, it was easy to explain that because, that was why I was in the public sector in the first place. I knew that I wanted to work. I went to bring my professional my discipline as an economist, to bring it to bear in the public sector so that I can impact people on a large scale, And so it was easy to explain that inside my personal statement. And of course, like Ifeoma said also, that don't be generic when you're making your personal statement. Make it about you, make it about what you think, make it about what you would like to be able to do, make it about what kind of world you would like to paint, and being able to now drill that down to baby steps, to be able to paint, when you paint that big picture, breaking that down to baby steps, things you look forward to doing in the immediate term towards that big picture. So you have to be able to not just paint the big picture, but you have to be able to articulate what it is, what steps you want to begin to put in place to be able to achieve that big picture, over time. Then I would also like to explain that when I got back from that program, that I made it a point of duty to be active with the alumni. That's really very, very important. Many people come back from programs like that and just go back to their own jobs or their normal life, But the work is only half done when you get back. The other half of the work is being active through the alumni to be able to actually now implement some of those ideas you had, and then the new inspiration that you got during your program. So I want to implore you that make sure you put in the back of your mind that going for such program is just half of the work. Getting back and being able to be active through the alumni, to be able to work with other alumni members is the meat, that's the larger half of the whole work. It's a larger half than just attending, the program. And that in itself, for me, was a unique experience till today, because I've made friends through the alumni that I would probably never have met if I didn't show the interest that I did. I was opportune to help establish a website for the alumni at that time, and also acted as assistant secretary. And that was when we had the president there was Swina, Princess Swina. And I just want you to know that we had one wonderful president at that time. Princess Swina, of blessed memory to today, was an epitome of love, of care, of passion. She gave everything. She spent her money, her time, her energy for the alumni association. She was passionate about it, and she really helped it to grow. So the alumni body today, the strength of the alumni body today is because of the work that Princess Swina, personally, put into it. And when you get to go for your program, you should also come back and add your own quota to that job. So after the program, the IVLP program in 2004, and the work that I did with the alumni body, I got opportunity I was asked to put together a team from the Lagos State government that would be able to go for another program, because I was championing a lot to do with volunteering work, across the state. And so wanted to do a lot with regards to heritage preservation. So the volunteer visitor program, which I got opportunity to go in 2012, was about heritage preservation. And I was charged with the responsibility to put together a team. That team included the deputy governor at that time, Dr. Mrs. Adebule, Idiat Adebule, Mr. Bolaji Uthman of blessed memory, Professor, what's his name now? The professor from Lagos State University, who was a professor of history, Professor Damole, yes, and my good self. So there were 4 of us in that team, and it was a lot of work putting together a team, trying to coordinate their documentation. You had to do write-ups for them. So there are different types of programs, and I'm glad that I'm able to give you 2 different scenarios. The first one was a personal one that I went. The second one was a group one that I had to coordinate. So whatever opportunities that you have, out of the various programs that are available now through the US Public Affairs section, you need to be open-minded about the type of program that you want to attend or you want to apply for. So the second one that I went for was that one that was a group thing. And of course, I was the smallest person in that group, so I had to do a lot of well, I had to do all the groundwork, the legwork, for the application to sail through, to get the visas done, all the logistics and all of that. It was successful mainly because of my my level of involvement in the alumni prior to that time. So that helps. And that tells you that once you continue to engage through the alumni, that there are several other activities that you can do with the public affairs section. The type of engagement you can have, are limitless, and that was the opportunity that I had to put that team together, and we had a very useful time in the US, and several of the points that we came back with that wanted to implement, some of them required political will, which we couldn't get done then. But the beauty of it is that, since I was still young in the system, I knew that I would eventually get to a point in my career where I would be able to dig up some of these things and begin to try to implement them myself.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kumi.
Thank you so much.
Because what an experience.
Yes.
We need to take questions from our audience because we have very limited time. This program is just an hour program, and we would like to hear from our audience. I'm sure they have questions for you and for Ifeoma too. Ifeoma, are you still on the call?
Yes, I'm on the call.
Great. So I would like to ask any of our audience from our spaces, if you have question, you can raise your virtual hand. You let us know who you are directing the question to, either to Kumi or Ifeoma. So while we wait for the audience, I would like to ask, either of you can answer the question. We have a population of youth in Nigeria today. Amongst the millions of youth, how do you even get that opportunity to be selected? I know that American Spaces is a very good place to get to hear about this information. But where do you really go, or what do you need to do to get to be among the few that are selected for these opportunities? Ifeoma, would you like to go first?
Sorry, I didn't get the last part of the question. What is it?
I said, what do you need to do to be among those few that will be selected for opportunities like this, for exchange? Where do you need to go? Where do you have to be? What must you do to be among the few that will be selected, among the millions of youth in Nigeria?
Yeah, well, I think Nigerians are generally very hardworking and forward-thinking, especially Nigerian youths. You just have to talk about your story and make sure it stands out. If your story is not known, there is no way the IVLP folks are going to know about what you're doing, or even nominate you or select you to be a part of the program. And frankly, the only way to know about what you're doing is by putting yourself out there, right? And this is what we talk about how to be professional on social media, how to use it to talk about your work, how to use it to drive awareness about the great things that you're doing. That's how you get noticed. That's how you stand out. And that's how they begin the process of trying to invite you for these sorts of things. You should also be going for conferences and seminars where if you're not a panelist, you put yourself out and ask the panelists questions. You also get yourself, to volunteer at some of these events. So these are the ways that you put yourself out to be able to stand out. It's do the work, but also tell your story.
Great. Thank you very much. Kumi, do you want to chime in?
Yes, I would say that you should look for a mentor. I think the work that a mentor does is very, very key. Now, A mentor would help to channel their own years of experience, plus the years of experience of the network they have, to be able to bring it to your doorstep. So a mentor helps you to catch up on years that you would have probably had to learn the rope by yourself. A mentor can see your potential and connect you and open doors for you. So whatever you need to do to get a good mentor, you need to do that thing. If it means volunteering to work with the mentor, or volunteering to in the space where the mentor operates, so that you get noticed. I was at a program last week, Ministry of Energy. They were having their conference, and at that program, there were students from engineering departments of schools. And then the female students that were there, the lady who was on the stage speaking offered to mentor the female students that came for that conference, just because they were there, and because we don't have enough females in that field. So just being at the right place at the right time, showing the interest goes a long way for you to get a mentor that can open doors for you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I have a hand raised in Jigawa. Jigawa, please, can you unmute and ask your question? Direct to your question. Thank you.
So good morning, my name is Patrice Hassan from Window in America, Jigawa State. My question is about the personal statement. So when you are applying for a scholarship and then you want to write the personal statement, so are you going to state the previous of your studies, or is only the current? Thank you. That's the question.
Please, can you speak to the microphone? I'm not sure they got your question.
Okay, I said, for example, I want to apply for a scholarship, then about the personal statement. The personal statement, am I going to state the current of my studies or the previous, or am I going to put in together all of them, all the previous and the current studies in my personal statement?
Who would you like to answer your question? The first speaker?
Yes, the first speaker, because he's the one who talked about the personal statement.
Okay. Ifeoma, did you get the question?
I got the question. I think on application forms, there are parts where they ask you to fill your educational history. And that educational history, you put in all the schools you've attended. Your personal statement is not about your qualifications or whatever. It is about who you are, what you have, like what you are doing, what your values are, what your transformation journey is, how the things you have done has shaped you, and how they're impacting and reaching communities. That's what your personal statement is. It's not about your educational qualification. There's a section on every application form for educational qualifications.
Jigawa, are you okay with the answer? Okay, thank you. So American Corner Ikeja, you can unmute and ask your question.
Okay. Okay, good morning.
Good morning.
Mine is not a question per se. I was a bit late, so I didn't get the first part of the lecture. So I don't know if it's going to be possible for us to have a recording so that things I missed out, I can get it. Then also the second speaker was saying you have to be part of the alumni will do, the alumni will do. I don't understand. How can you be part of the alumni? Or how can you benefit from the alumni?
Okay. So let me answer the first part. We are going to share the slides that Ifeoma shared with us. We are going to share it with the director at American Corner Ikeja. So he knows how to get it across to the members of the corner. So, Kumi, I think the second question is for you. How can they be part of the alumni when they have not gone for exchange program?
Thank you very much. Okay, so I was talking about, I was fast forwarding to the point when you actually go for the program, that you should take that as just half of the work done, and that when you get back from the program, you should ensure that you join the alumni group and be active in it. That was my point at that time. But of course, you need to go to the program first before you can become a member of the alumni body. However, when we are talking about how you can also get onto the program, you can find out from the American spaces, for example, those members of the alumni body who are in the field where you are interested in, and get any of them to mentor you. And then in that process, they can identify your passion or your strength, and then they themselves can recommend you to and guide you in the interview, in the process of application, and the whole process.
Thank you very much. So there is, I just placed the embassy website on the chat box. You can also get information about some of this fellowship on that website when they make the announcement for application and all other information. Any other hand? Okay, Uyo window, please unmute and ask your question.
Yeah. Good morning. Thank you. Just answer the question I wanted to ask. I wanted to ask if there are websites where we can get this link to apply for these programs.
Yeah, so I just sent the US Embassy website. You can also follow us, our WhatsApp channel, American Spaces Nigeria. If you speak to the director, she will also share that channel with you, the link to that channel. You can follow us there. I'll also put it on the chat box. You get to hear a lot of opportunities that are open, even through that channel too, that WhatsApp channel. Uyo, do you still have question, or that's the only question you have?
Yes, please. We have one more question.
Please go ahead.
The first speaker talk about the common misform as in this program. Talk about not tell your specific program in a particular thing. So I want to ask, how do I fit my application to get the value and the goal of my program? How do I tailor my application to fix the value and the goal of my program? That is my question. Thank you.
Director, can you help with that question? I didn't get it. Ifeoma, did you get it?
I think he was talking about the pitfalls. She talked about pitfalls when she was presenting. He's saying that how do you tailor your application to fit the values and goals of what particular program he's trying to apply for?
Okay, Ify.
Yeah, okay, so that's a good question. And I thought I had tried to address it a bit. But here is the things about your values. Your values are your values, right? And yeah. So you're not trying to tailor it to fit. You're trying to align it, you know? So if the value of the fellowship is about building communities, if communities is one of their values, right? If honesty, if leaders, these are some of their values, you will describe how you are a leader, or how you are how you bring authenticity to the work that you do, or how, your leadership is a value that you instill in the work that you do with the people that you work with and all of those things. You do alignment. It's not tailor-fitting, you're not reducing your values to meet anybody. You're sort of saying, oh, this is how my value aligns with yours. So it's an alignment thing rather than tailor-fitting.
Uyo, did you get that?
Yes, yes.
Yes, we did.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Do we still have any question from our spaces, as we are totally out of time? Because I can't see any hand up, and I didn't receive any chat.
Please, we have one more question. Thank you.
Okay. Uyo, go ahead.
Just,
Uyo, go ahead.
like, this application demands recommendation letter. Then my question is, can I get a recommendation letter from anybody outside the school? Maybe somebody that is doing a business, a known person in the society outside the academic province or senior lecturer for the application.
Who do you want to answer your question?
The first.
Okay. Ify.
He's asking about recommendation letters from who? Sorry.
No,
So
he wanted to know where he can get, should it be within the academic setting or outside of the academic?
It can be both. It can be both. Most times they're asking you for more than one recommendation letter. So if you have a professor that can speak to your academic qualities, yes. But also, if you have a mentor or a boss you have worked before that can speak to your competency and your hard work and your ethics, in the workplace, then that should be a second recommender, right? So it can be both. It doesn't have to be just school or just outside.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Oka Window, please unmute and ask your question.
Hey, good morning.
Morning.
All right, thank you very much. I have a question for the first speaker, that's my Ifeoma. What are the benefits your brand, that's what you are doing, the social work you are doing, what are the benefits that you are meant to gain if you are to join one of these fellowships?
I think that's a great question, and it's a great way to end the session. The Eisenhower Fellowship changed my life. My cohort and I were all on WhatsApp group. In my cohort, we had one of the princes of Netherlands. His brother is the king now, but his older brother. So he's on the fellowship. We had people who are doing, head of family funds in Southeast Asia. We had the MD of a bank, in Nigeria. He's now heading the West African section of the bank. So for me, first of all, it's the network, right? That there are people that are doing much better than me that I can look up to and I can go to for help, for advice, or even for resources if I need it for the work that I'm doing. But secondly, it's also that it has, what I did with my fellowship, the company that I run now, which is Clean Technology Hub, was actually my project during my fellowship. So part of what they ask you in the fellowship is to define a wicked problem and design a solution to solve it. My solution was Clean Technology Hub, that I was going to start a company that was going to be addressing last mile electricity, building renewable energy mini grids and microgrids. That was what I did, design my project to be. And that's what I now came back to Nigeria and registered as a company, and I've been doing for the past 10 years. So these are some of the benefits that I gained. So it's both the network, the resources, your ability to actually create something and then run with it. These are some of the benefits for me.
Okay. So we have the last question. Thank you very much, Ify. We have the last question for Adio-Moses on the chat box. Getting nominated for the IVLP program just about 6 years into public service, apart from working with those top officials, what did you do differently to distinguish yourself from other officers, especially as you are supposed to be junior officer in the system then?
Okay, thank you very much. So what did I do? That's why I gave the background of what my career from day one. You know, that's why I tried to paint that picture, because not that kind of career path, I would say maybe less than 5% of public servants that joined government at that time had that kind of opportunity. So that in itself already made one to stand out. I mean, my first year working that closely with the head of the State Treasury Office, you meet so many people that come to his office, and everybody comes to where the money is. So, and you get to do a lot of the administrative work, letter writing stuff, things that a junior officer would naturally do. And so if you're able to articulate and document and you're able to represent your boss well, despite the fact that you are such a junior officer, but you're able to articulate and you are confident and you speak well and you're able to think, your thought process, is adequate enough for them, then you are already that's part of the 10%, the top 10%, and that's why by the second year, I just got invited to an interview. I didn't even know about it. But people around the system who are scouting for those who, stood out from those of us that came in 1999, were the ones that said there's somebody in that place that seems to have what it takes. So, wherever you find yourself, you need to be able to put in your best and then still work on yourself to continue to improve, because nobody's, the others are not waiting, for you. And because I was in the public sector, I didn't see myself as just a civil servant. In fact, it was the salary that they pay at the end of the month that reminded me that I was a civil servant. That little sum that comes in at the end of the month. That's when I remember that, I'm still a civil servant. But everything else about my life was completely not the normal, type of civil servant lifestyle. So you have to know who you are and why you are where you are. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm so sorry I cannot take the last. There was a question that was directed at Ife. We are totally out of time. The person wanted to know, what role do letters of recommendation play in the application process? And how
Let
can
me
I
quickly
ensure?
answer that. I saw it.
Thank you
It
very
is
much.
one of
Thank
the
you.
most important things you can get. Listen, if you have somebody who you don't know would write a recommendation letter for you, don't go to them. If you know you left a job and you stank out, you know, like these things that Gen Zs do now, where they go and drag their former employers on social media and write nasty stuff. You cannot go back to them for a recommendation letter because they will not give you a good one. I will tell you, we consider, as a panelist, as somebody who selects fellows, we consider recommendation letters very sacrosanct because this is somebody else that is telling us about you. We don't know you. You can write all the personal statements you can write about yourself and make yourself look good. But we're asking for objective second and third parties to tell us about you, who you are, and what you bring to the table. So if the things they write don't align with your personal statement, we already know that there's a lot of comma around you. So you must look for the people who will give you the biggest and best endorsements in your recommendation letter, and not anybody who you have fought with or annoyed or, dragged before. So it is very, very important. It's after your personal statement, we consider your recommendation letter as the next most important thing. Sorry, I just had to answer that one.
Thank you very much. I didn't want to take too much of your time again, but thank you for your time this morning. Please, let's give our facilitators, Ife and Kumi Adio-Moses, a very big clap. Thank you so much for your time and for your sacrifices, for taking out time to come and educate us, even on crafting a compelling application. I know that we have learned one or two things, even from today's session. And most importantly, on the note of the recommendation, I want to also encourage our young audiences all over our American spaces, learn to do good work, put in the hard work. One of the reasons why the US government is undertaking most of this program is to empower us, to engage our young audiences, and to make sure you are able to stand out in your chosen fields and careers. And with this, we come to the end of today's session. And I would like to announce to us that on Monday, we'll be having employability webinar, growing a personal business from scratch to profit. And we have someone that have been involved in growing business for a very long time, Prince Okulaja Omoleye, the CEO of Dove Group of Companies, will be our facilitator on Monday. Please join us on that Monday by 10 a.m. Also on Tuesday, our youth development series continues with week 5. It also promised to be another explosive session where you are going to learn a lot of things that will propel you in your career and chosen field. Until we meet, thank you, everyone. Bye, and have a good weekend.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much, Ife.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kumi.
Thank you.
Have
Thank
a nice
you.
weekend.